Hello, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Noble Father podcast. Today is January the 20th, 2025, and today I've kind of delayed to get this podcast episode out because of the inauguration. Today is also Inauguration Day, and I had to go and really listen to that speech given by Donald Trump, and both the speech about the one he did in front of the entire audience, the big audience, the real audience, I guess, maybe the former presidents and all the officials and what have you. And then also to see how he was talking to the other young people gathered in the other room. And man, just a lot of the stuff that he said was just so on point, and things that I've seen are a problem here in our own country, in Canada. This isn't a political podcast at all, and this is by no means me celebrating one person and idolizing one person, as people would like to try to accuse me of being. I am one in which I like what somebody stands for. I like what they stand for, right? Everybody's a sinner, right? Everybody is a sinner, myself included. At no point do I idolize anybody and say that, I follow this person. I follow what the person stands for. And everything that Donald is talking about, what he's going to do in the United States, as a Canadian, I feel like wouldn't just benefit myself, or it wouldn't just benefit America, but it would also benefit the world as a whole. And, it's undeniable for you to see the changes that comes from good leadership and standing for what is right, objective truth, right? Right, gender and race, right? Going back to merit, right? That's exactly what it should be. A worker deserves its wages, right? These are things that we've gone so far off of, and the opposing government would try to make you more of a liability, that you would have to rely on your government for handouts and take away your freedom, take away what you can control yourself. And case in point for this topic, right, is really like the pardons that Biden announced and issued for so many people, that you're kind of left scratching your head on, like, why? What if this person did nothing wrong? Why are you issuing a blanket pardon for so many people? And that should get you thinking, really, about the powers and principalities that we are against, the forces of evil that we are against. It is a very dangerous time. And this is, how does this relate back to fatherhood, you might ask? Your children are the next generation of the world. And what decisions are made by one single leader impacts those generations to come. And so what I feel like Donald J. Trump is standing for is absolutely what the world needs more of. And, to the point where I think that, and let's just be real, there are those out there right now that probably listen to this podcast thinking that I'm committing hate speech, and that I don't, that I condone hate, crimes against the trans people, or whatever it is. Like, that couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I am not a hater of those people. I hate the sin, and I love the person. And you've heard me say that before. And yet people are, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I say, actually, because those people don't believe. They just don't. They just don't believe what I say. And even if I've had relationships of friendships with them and been intentional in that relationship with them, they still sense that I am hating them and that I'm justifying violence against them, which I am not. Point being, this, and I can't really wait. I can't wait, because I think that Canada is due for a leadership change as well. Everything that we've been seeing up until this point is going to lead to this massive and drastic change. There is going to be a comeback. And I think that once the Liberals leave power here in Canada, when the Conservatives take over, it's going to be our golden age as well. And I think that it's one in which it is in great partnership with the United States, that there is great things that can happen from a better fostering of a relationship, one in which we help one another rather than singling out each other, saying you're the cause of our demise. That is not how God intended for relationships to be. I think that there's ways to help one another succeed, a mutually beneficial relationship, and that's really what it's all about, right? It's a connection. It's a friendship. It's one in which we help one another. We are allies. We are not enemies. What's truly sad is, both the Democrats and the liberals, north and south of the border, have become so selfish and made it out to fill their own pockets and leave the freedom and the well-being of their citizens off the table. And it's quite evident, actually, if you look at how money gets diverted, all these shell companies and all these nonprofits that get money that governments pay grants for, that doesn't serve anybody, right? Of course, do your own research, right? This isn't a podcast to be talking about conspiracies or whatever. And where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So if COVID was not a big deal, right? If it was a real thing, then why do you have to pardon certain people? And that's another topic, is something that's really been, on my mind a lot, is like doubting the past version of myself. Sometimes, I leave my house here, I'm not even down the street, and I question whether or not I, close the garage, right? I like gaslight myself, questioning my own reality, right? At the time, right, made the decision, right, as a family, prayerfully even, right, spiritually, right, asking God what he feels is best for us, and we led that way. And so for me to go back and think that, COVID was this big sham of a thing, and yeah, maybe I shouldn't have vaccinated myself or whatever, I can't, it's hard to play that game. You can't go back and just be like, well, I wish I could change that. I wish I changed my response. Yeah, do I regret taking the vaccine? Absolutely. But in the moment, during that time, I was making the best decision based on the information that I had, and also being spiritually led by God to those decisions. And so that's all I can really do, right? And trust me when I say that a lot of it is from that relationship. My wife and kids got on a plane December the 31st, 2019, and they were headed for China. And they went to China. They were in Hainan, which is like the southern Hawaiian little place, China's Hawaii, let's just say, and spending time with family in a warmer climate because it was the wintertime, really cold where my wife is from. For those that don't know, December 31st was really when the release, or they found out the outbreak of COVID, happened in Wuhan. Wuhan is only 2 provinces away from where my wife is from. And so after 2 or 3 weeks in Hainan, they flew back to Chengdu, and as soon as they landed, lockdown started to happen. People were called to stay at home. And so their trip was really, really cut short. And this was really when I was into panic mode. This was probably January, mid-January. I was kind of in panic mode. I was like, I need to get them home because something is not right about this COVID thing, this pandemic thing, or this COVID-19 thing. I had no idea what it was. Here, people were still living their lives, just enjoying themselves, no idea of what is going on abroad. And here I am freaking out. My church, member of parliament, is a member. It was an elder actually at our church. And I remember asking, I was like, hey, is there a way for you to help me get my wife and my kids home? I'm panicking right now. I really want to get them home. I sense this looming thing that is going to happen, right? And sure enough, it was substantiated, right? They ended up closing down borders. May of 2020, they started to close down the borders. I was frantic to get my wife home. I think March, they were supposed to come back March, and I was freaking out mid-January to get them home. And February, I think mid-February, I finally managed to get them home mid-February. And when we came back, my mom and my dad were with them traveling. They came back together. And my wife and I felt that it was the best decision to quarantine for 2 weeks. Quarantine for 2 weeks just to be safe. Like, this was before the government even said anything about that. Um, it was just a precaution. It was just to be careful. We had no idea about it, right? And in our spirit, felt like this was the right thing to do. And that's all there is. That's all there is to say, right? We did that before anybody ever said to do a 14-day quarantine. And this led to us not, attending church for a while, right? We just felt that it was the wise thing to do to stay away from church, stay away from public areas, right? For our own safety and for the safety of others, right? Do I want to be somebody who caused somebody else to get sick? Absolutely not. Would you know? Probably wouldn't know. But still, we couldn't as a family. We just didn't feel like that was the right thing for us to do. Obviously, now looking back on it, right? With all the information we have now, if I knew that then, obviously, then I wouldn't do what I do, right? I wouldn't have done what I did. But of course, we all say hindsight is 20/20. So there's no way you can go back and play those things over again and say that, I wouldn't have done this, or I would have known that it was a conspiracy, or whatever it was, right? Not to mention that you're going back on what the Spirit in the moment was telling you, right? And we were prayerfully seeking back in the day. We were asking that, right? I felt in my heart that I was like, well, how can you pray and ask God for, protection? Ask God for protection from this illness, right? Not that He won't do it, but then you also don't take precautions to take care of yourself to avoid getting that. Essentially, the prayer that you're giving is one in which you're asking God to lessen the storm. You're asking God to lessen the storm so that you come out of it alive, as opposed to, Lord, help me to control what I can control. Help me to take what I have to take. Help lead me in your spirit of what you want us to do. And every step of the way, we saw it that way. We asked, right? We sought that, and we did it. And so is there any regret, really? Is there any regret in how we chose to respond to, let's just say, the pandemic, in everything through life? If God in the moment asked us to do this and we were obedient to do it, that's all that matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. And so, where do we go? This is going to be an amazing podcast because this is going to be a time capsule podcast. We are going to see in 4 years what is going to happen, what is going to unfold, what has already unfolded from this change in leadership. Yes, you might not be American. Yes, you might be from somewhere else. But I guarantee you, what happens in the United States affects you as well. What happens in Canada affects you as well, right? It's all connected. It's all connected. God wants it all to be connected, right? And I'm interested to see how this all unfolds, because God has a great plan. God has a great plan, not just for the United States, not just for Canada, not just from wherever you're listening to. God has a great plan for you. And He wants to include us in there. Or else, really, what's the point? And so the thing you really got to ask yourself is, where do you stand? What do you stand on? Are you standing on what somebody told you, is true? Or are you going to stand on objective truth? Are you going to stand on what God says and what the Word of God says? Because it withstands the test of time, and it's truth. It's absolute truth. Go and dig and find the evidence. If you don't know, and if you don't know, ask. Knock on that door. Ask God to show you, right? If He doesn't exist, what's the harm in asking? Right? And if you get nothing back, what's the harm in asking then? Right? And if that doesn't matter, then who cares if you play a Ouija board or do all these other demonic things that are out there? Why does it matter? Right? Then what's the point of your life? Right? It either all makes sense or it doesn't. Right? Either some of it is true, even the most smallest minute idea or fact about it is true, or none of it is. Right? Go and test it. Right? Recently, Wes Huff, if you don't know who that is, go on YouTube, look up Wes Huff, and just look up the Bibles, look at the videos that he has out there. Right? Can we trust the Bible? Can we rely on the Bible? Go read it. Go watch the videos. Go learn it. There's information out there. There's people out there that God has appointed to speak this truth, right? And all you have to do is really get out of your algorithm, go and look at it, go watch the video, educate yourself, right? Be wise about it. The wisdom is out there, right? When the time comes, there's going to be a decision that has to be made. Are you on the fence? You got to pick a side. The fence belongs to the enemy. Pick a side. Are you in or are you out? And that's really all I wanted to say, because this decision impacts your family, it impacts your children and the generations after them, right? Take a look at the Israelites. Great example, right? Forgot about what God did for them and look at where they ended up. Don't be like them. I really hope you choose the right thing, choose the right path. And so really that's all I wanted to share today. Coming up next week, potentially I may not get an episode out. I am getting ready to travel with my son. And if I do get an episode out, it will be the last one for the duration of the trip. I am going to be in China with my family, reunite with my wife and my daughter, with my son. And I want to be fully present with that. And so I'm going to get off of the platform. I am going to focus on being present with them. And most of my time will be spent building the community still, holding those meetups still, trying my best to be present there. And so if you're a father listening to this for the first time and you really want to find community, a place where you could be yourself and open up about things that you're going through, with the support of other fathers who understand what you're going through, and not get talked down to by somebody who's an authority. There's no authority. Everybody's on their own journey and everybody's walking through it in their own way. We're that group. So do check us out. I'd love to connect you and hook you in. And that's really all I wanted to share today. That's been really, really heavy on my heart, right? I really want people to see the truth and really to go and find the truth. Be genuine about it, right? And don't just be spoon-fed, what you're taking in. So yeah, like I always say, right? We're not promised tomorrow, so go be present. Go enjoy your time with your family, right? If your work is taking you away from being with them, maybe it's time to find a new job, or maybe it's time to take that leap of faith that you've been wanting to do for the longest time, and go be present, right? We're already 20 days into the new year, and my son and I have gone out 9 times off-roading, going out fishing, just being present with one another, taking advantage of this beautiful backyard, as you see in my background here, and just being present. And I hope that you do that. I hope that moves you to do that. I started a new YouTube channel called Noble Father Overland. I'm looking to build some videos to put out there, documenting our journeys, our memories, and our adventures together. And so stay tuned for those. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, bye for now.